to please be seated. On behalf of the Director General, I want to very specially appreciate my Lord and the learned seals that have endured with us till this time. We do not lightly esteem your courtesies as well, and we appreciate your sacrifice to look back and give to the upcoming lawyers what was once given to you, which is to mentor and then help them to make up their minds to know that there are options that they have. And I must also very specially appreciate participation, yes, and commend the students who have stayed the course until now. But you may not know what you have done for yourself, because the legal profession actually demands resilience. If you ask any of these seniors, they will let you know that there are days when you go to some courts, be it election petition or certain matters coming up in the appellate courts that are time bound. This is where it begins. One major challenge of some of the, I don't want to stereotype by saying maybe Gen Zs, you know, there are quite a number of Gen Zs that are focused and goal-oriented. But there are certain humans who just want certain professions for the title it confers, but they are not really ready, they've not addressed their minds to the cost that they have to pay. And one of those costs is to demonstrate that patience that culminates in resilience. One of the obligations that you are taught is that as a lawyer, as a member of the bar, you must not leave the bar naked. You must not undress the court. Many of your colleagues have undressed the courts today, and I hope they will turn a new leaf. It is not only disrespectful, it marks of lack of understanding of what you are into. The profession of law is very conservative, as it is noble. And when you talk of nobility, it is encompassing of all that is decorous and that also speaks to dignity of life, both in character and learning. And I hope that those of you here, having conquered that restlessness and impatience that makes people to go in, come out, run to the convenience sometimes. Some people are just roaming around. Sometimes they ask themselves, where am I even going? Then they come back. That's how restless some people are. So, well, that said, I want to also commend the SRC executive for all that has come into the SRC Law Week that commenced on Monday. And I'm told that all the football competitions are going on very well, particularly Team Osamolu. All right. So, well, I'm mindful of how our minds will be now, and you'll be wondering how many slides does he have. But I can assure you that in a few minutes from now, we'll be done with this phase, because ours is continuous engagement until November, when we will finally engage you and then disengage afterwards and release you to these very exemplary seniors and their lordships that you have seen, so that the learning will continue. The life of a lawyer is one of unending learning. and that is where you must start. So this afternoon, we are to just speak to the topic opportunities and challenges for new Wigs in the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. What are the opportunities there for Nigerian lawyers? And I'm sure many of the lawyers that came, you heard all that they said. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is the brainchild of the African Union, which is the new regional plank of the continent. It used to be the Organization of African Unity, but now has become what is known as the African Union. And we are not going into all the background of how the African Union came about. I'm sure you recall Muammar Gaddafi has been in the lead, agitating for the whole of Africa to become united as a country, right from or taking what the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah and Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the president of Tanzania, those foremost Pan-Africanists have propounded and argued in favor. Well, no matter his own excesses, that is Muammar Gaddafi, from 1969 when he became head of state till his death, he has always advocated for Africa to come together and operate as a united entity, just like you have the United Kingdom or the United States of America. So there have been that effort, but the sub-regional groups, talking of the one we have in Africa, in West Africa, ECOWAS, and the other sub-regional groups have made individual efforts to ensure that we have what is known as regional integration. Regional integration is the effort to pull countries together so that there is joint operation, both economics and the other aspects of existence. And some countries, some regions have achieved this. The whole of Europe, for instance, I think that is like the most advanced regional integration that we have. And there are other models like the loose federation that the United States of America operates, or that of the United Kingdom. I'm sure we know the United Kingdom is it exists both as a confederacy and also as individual countries. So when you talk of Scotland, you talk of Wales, you talk of England, you talk of Northern Ireland, you are speaking to individual countries. And we see that demonstrated if, for instance, they go for World Cup, they play as individual countries. But if they go for the Olympic, you see the United Kingdom. That is just to remind them of their common denominator as a region, as a sub-regional bloc. Now, for Africa, the African Continental Free Trade Area became the instrument was signed first by 8 countries in 2022, and initially Nigeria was not part of the first countries to endorse the protocol, but in the last 2 years we now have in the neighborhood of 48 countries that have endorsed that have signed the protocol and also deposited say. You know, when we say all of this, you have to recall your knowledge of international, public international law and the execution of protocols and charters and treaties that gives rise to international organizations. Well, the reluctance of Nigeria is not the rationale for the reluctance of Nigeria in ratifying the AFTA protocol is not far-fetched. Of course, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa. Thinks it should not just rush to endorse or ratify a protocol that is put together, even though it was part of the negotiation. But over time, it's no longer possible for any country to operate as an island, and that way heavily Nigeria ratified and deposited the protocol. The body is headquartered in Accra, Ghana, and presently a lot has been put out there. But what we are looking at is not just the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, but the opportunities that presents for lawyers. But before we talk of that, let me just, as I've done in the paper, observe some of the bottlenecks that the Continental Free Trade Area may have. It is salutary to note that that is the largest Continental Free Trade Area in the world. And so, if that materializes 100% according to the dream of the founding fathers, certainly Africa is going to be the better for it. But we know all the immediate challenges that this will be confronted with. Number one is the tenacious pursuit of traditional sovereign, the traditional sovereignty of African states. At public international law, the concept of sovereignty is very relaxed in favor of integration and other forms of collaboration, because it is very expensive and it is becoming increasingly unsafe to act alone in the world. We see all the crises across the globe, and we know that some crises will not have lasted as they have done were there not to be collaborators or allies that have come to the aid either of their bilateral or multilateral state agents. We know what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, in the Middle East, the Gaza crisis, and maybe Sudan and some other parts of the world. You discover that today a lot of aggression goes on, and nations, not even America, wants to go it alone, except the Donald Trump rhetorics of protectionism and America first and taking your country back, which are just mere rhetorics, because there is hardly any country that can exist as an island again in the world, because you need people to buy, even if you are the most sophisticated country in the world, manufacturing all the cutting edge high-tech machineries and all, you need markets. And that is where Nigeria actually stands a huge advantage on the face of it. And I'm saying that advisedly, on the face of it, because it is not enough to just have a huge population. A lot has to still go into it. And when you look at what is happening in Africa, actually other nations should be scared of what Nigeria may bring to the table for them under the African Continental Free Trade Area. But then I don't think they are as afraid of Nigeria as they should be. One of the speakers said that they did a lot. Okay, I think Honorable Jibril. He said one of the great achievements of the National Assembly was to fight the third term. And I was speaking with somebody by me, and I said that is if not allowing Obasanjo to have a third term is actually to the advantage of Nigeria. Looking at Rwanda and some other country, whether we should not actually redefine our own type of democracy in Africa. Can we really afford 4-term every cycle of election with a humongous budget that goes into INEC, and then at the end of the day you have all the glitches, and not the result is whether it's known is not known, and a regime carries that hangover of whether it is legitimate or not legitimate, and all these winner takes all. If you are not party A and party A wins, all parties A, B, C, D, E have to go and lick their wound and lock in the corner for another 4 years. Looking at a place like South Africa, who just also came out of their own election, I think their method of stipulating a constitutional threshold that anybody who is going to be the president should attain. If you don't attain, then you go and form a coalition, a unity government with other political parties to douse the tension. Definitely, when you have 8 million, 6 million, 6 million, and 1 million, that is like 13 million outside of government, because you have 8 million. Now, I'm just speaking as an academic. Rationally, you know that there will be a lot of tension, there will be a lot of friction, there will be a lot of bitterness, and all of these things, they have a way of hampering trade, of hampering foreign direct investment flow. And so, even with the African Continental Free Trade Area, these peculiar challenges of the giant of Africa, they portend great danger, and ordinarily they will undermine whatever advantage that should come to Nigeria from it. So all of these result in things like insecurity, the topsy-turvy nature of our economic policy. We don't know whether it's going forward or coming back, the foreign currency and everything, infrastructural deficiencies. So when you look at all of this, are Nigerian companies going to benefit really from a totally liberalized African Continental Free Trade Area or agreement that permits all countries to just trade as if they are equal in Africa? Certainly not, because the cost of production of goods in Nigeria will be far higher than that of South Africa. Despite their power challenge, Africa has they generate in the region of 50,000 kilowatts of electricity. Egypt in the region of 40,000, Rwanda and other smaller countries. So it makes their companies will be able to produce their own goods, which they can ship to any part of Africa at far cheaper rates than what any company in Nigeria will produce its own. And so in Nigeria, if you cite any factory or industry anywhere, apart from paying for the cost of putting up on the machineries and the high exchange rate at which you are going to import the machines and the equipment for your manufacturing industry, how about the need for you to now power those generators, those industrial plants, the need for you to provide security, the need for you to provide road, the need for you to sink borehole, because all of these that are taken for granted in some of the African countries, they are not so in Nigeria. And because of this, the general impact, the positive impact that the free trade area should have in Nigeria may not really be as auspicious. And so what is in there for lawyers or other professionals may not really be as much as it should be. So let me just mention also I've discussed the obstacles. I won't delay more on that. Let me just mention a few of the opportunities that I feel lawyers can leverage. Of course, it is an opportunity for cross-border legal practice, which is the trending area for lawyers globally. Recently, we were at a conference in Nairobi on African legal ethics teacher, and then we were brainstorming, and we had in attendance some principals of law firms that have thousands of lawyers, some hundreds of thousands. A particular one has 3,000 lawyers cut across Asia, America, Australia, Europe, and Africa. Now, if you have anything to do with such a law firm as Osamolu and Co, and most of the Ankos in Nigeria is just you and the Anko, maybe one or two youth corpers, it's a discussion for another day, so that we explore why is it that legal partnerships don't last in Nigeria, because once upon a time there used to be a certain Aluko, Oyebode, Okeke, and Ajumogobia, and so on. We can mention quite a number, but many of these now, they are all on their own answering their names. But the trend globally is to build synergy, is to network, and we need to really look forward, look into that. If the lawyers in Nigeria are going to really play a significant role in taking advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area, because there is an extent to what you can do alone and by yourself. When you leverage network of law firms that are upwardly mobile, forward-looking, you can take advantage of all your infrastructure and investment without really establishing presence in the 54 countries, or if you include Western Sahara, which is trying to break away from Morocco, 55 countries. So you can't be thinking of having offices in East Africa, Southern Africa, Northern Africa, Central Africa, and other parts of West Africa. As a lawyer, the time has come to open up, and then, but whatever is responsible for shortly making the life of partnership to be short-lived in Africa, the time has come to look into, especially Nigeria, to look into it so that we can leverage this, because certainly Nigeria is home to a lot of nationals from virtually every country on the continent of Africa, and you can have them as clients, and they require you to act for them. Instead of taking a flight to Joburg, you can call on your partner in South Africa, you can call on your partner in other parts, and then you have things sorted out without incurring additional costs. But this requires also the building of all the requisite soft and hard skills. The soft and hard skills. I think the SRC journal experts, they came to interview me, and I was bringing some of these issues to the fore. Law school can only introduce you to the practice of law, and not even very wide area. We just select a few areas, and then in the 4 to 6 months that you actually stay with us, we just try to introduce you. These learned silks, these noble, eminent legal personalities will tell you how much they have invested in themselves after leaving the law school. And today, many of them are holding their own out there as experts, as specialists, because that is the future of legal practice. The era of general practitioners is fast fading out. You must be known for something, and it doesn't come easy. You must be deliberate. You must introspect and find out what area of law catches not just my fancy, but my passion. What am I passionate about? And what sacrifice are you willing to make? A lot of certifications, free certifications, some paid certifications that are available online. You must begin to take advantage of them, preparatory to becoming a specialist in your chosen field. Also, the African Continental Free Trade Area places a demand on young lawyers that will be prominent in playing roles as stakeholders to also increase their proficiency in international languages. Many of us, we just manage to speak English language and then our local dialect. When they say ordinary comment aperçu in French, some can hardly respond. The time has come, as young people in particular, to enroll and take on one or two international languages, because Africa, by virtue of our colonial heritage, we are home to places like Guinea-Bissau, Gabon. Those are all Portuguese-speaking places. Some are Spanish-speaking, and majority are French-speaking. Some are Arabic-speaking. There's nothing bad in learning Arabic. Is a language, or the Mandarin, which is Chinese language. Try and see how you can challenge yourself in the next 1-2 years. Apart from other certifications and your LLB, become an internationally proficient speaker of 1 or 2 other languages in addition to English language, and you won't believe how internationally competitive that will render you in the global legal marketplace. Now, in talking of becoming specialists, there are areas, ADR is there, which you are familiar with. Some of you are already certified at the foundational level. Push it further. And both the Nigerian version, the UK version, and a lot of other certifications in mergers and M&A, because these are all things that will be happening in Africa, as you know. So you need to ensure that you take advantage of all of this. In rounding off, I've also said that basic artificial intelligence knowledge is required. Document automation, machine learning, sourcing materials from the web. And you know, experts will tell you there are 3 layers of the web. You have the surface web, you have the deep web, and you have the dark web. All this faking of identity and personality theft in the cyberspace. You must bring yourself to at least learn basics. Thank you. I still have up to 5 minutes. So we still have to learn all of these, at least basic, because lawyers are learned because they know a bit of everything. So a fortiori, when it comes to artificial intelligence, you cannot afford to be an ignoramus. Otherwise, you know, they say these robots, they are coming from the space to take away our jobs. But no robot is taking away the job of anybody who is versatile in the basic rudiments of artificial intelligence. You need people who will be content creators, You need people who are going to be in the compliance. You need people who are going to be in the other sectors to ensure that the policies, government policies are designed to regulate. So that is a huge market which is not even yet scratched. Policy formulation and regulation for AI is a very potent area that lawyers will play major role, but you must no longer be uninterested. It is not only because I know my students. Somebody will say now, will it come out in bar finance? Whatever is not coming out in bar finance doesn't concern some people, but it must interest you. You must take interest. Now, in rounding off, as we look at the African Continental Free Trade Area, we must devise legal rules that will protect the nascent industrial efforts of Nigeria and also help the companies, the local companies, to take advantage of sending goods outside, or at least leveraging the opportunity of distributorship, wholesaling, retailing, and like, and the necessary agreements to facilitate these commercial activities is going to be championed and managed by the lawyers. So you must be very proficient in drafting. Your knowledge of various precedent books and their uses, like the last speaker was speaking of the need to use them mutatis mutandis. You need to domesticate them and take cognizance of the local peculiarities. So you must build proficiency in this area. There are those who also argue that the regulation and liberalization of economies that African Continental Free Trade Area advocates, is Africa really ready for it? And cascading it to our own country, is Nigeria really ripe, especially in view of all the economic challenges? Should we go laissez-faire, or we should go the way of protectionism? I think somewhere middle course between the two. We cannot afford any of the extreme for now. There is the need to ensure that the interest of Nigeria is put together, and then we have a position and we operate as a corporate entity to bring our weight to the marketplace as a continent. And the NBA is also making its voice heard. NBA produced a position paper to be part of the negotiation of trade. There is a Nigerian office for trade negotiation, which NBA is part of, to ensure that all the legal frameworks are beneficial and not adverse to Nigeria and Nigerians. As you come on board, you must begin to take interest. I want you to read widely on the African Continental Free Trade Area, even if it will not come out. But there is hardly any way now that at least we deal with foreign participation. So under foreign participation, it may also not be out of place to find a way to make something to reflect. Thank you for listening.